Here we are at question 9 of LSAT PrepTest 157's second section, the first logical reasoning section. And as always, we're going to select a highlight tool at the start of the problem before reading the stem and marking whatever the question task is. We read, the reasoning above is most vulnerable to the criticism that it blank. So we're trying to find a flaw in the argument on the left-hand side. So we keep our highlight tool at the ready, and we're going to highlight the conclusion of this argument before trying to mentally predict what a flaw might be. So reading from the top, psychologists report that children in 9-month schools typically forget a significant amount of schooling during summer breaks. Okay, that's just a report, that's just a fact. So, some educators have proposed a 12-month schedule in which there are 3 month-long breaks spread throughout the year. Again, this is just a proposal, just a fact. We should conclude on the basis of the psychologist's research that the 12-month schedule is to be preferred insofar as academic learning is concerned, since this schedule will ensure that students will not forget their schooling during breaks. Well, the conclusion is this whole thing about we should conclude. Now, the reasoning at the end is what we should have jump off the page as being flawed. Do we know that students are going to remember stuff after a month just because it's shorter than after 3 months? Absolutely not. I don't know if you've dealt with small children, but they could forget things very quickly. So you should have a mental prediction of going, wait a minute, just because 3 months is too long doesn't mean that 1 month is short enough. So we have that mental prediction in mind before we go to the answer choices with the highlight tool ready to mark reasons to eliminate, or potentially that the choice matches what we just predicted as we go. So starting with choice A, relies on an unsubstantiated assumption about the comparative worth of academic and non-academic learning experiences. What non-academic learning experiences? I mean, honestly, we didn't even really talk about academic learning experiences. So choice A is going to need a lot of outside information in order to relate it definitively to the conclusion. Next, choice B draws on an arbitrary distinction between two groups. Well, no, there's definitely a defined distinction between the two groups. One is going to take a 3 month long break, and then one is going to take 3 1 month long breaks. So this is not an arbitrary distinction, so we can eliminate B as, again, just not being a flaw that's present in the argument. Then choice C takes for granted in comparing two situations that a certain undesirable result is correlated with only one of them, and ding, 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 albeit in great LSAT word salad kind of language, the two situations, well, those are going to be the 1 3 month break and then the 3 month long breaks. And then the certain undesirable result being correlated with only one of them is that they're going to forget their schooling. So choice C matches exactly what we expected, just in an abstract fashion. So you will have to parse the language, but hopefully you can see and track how choice C really did match our idea that just because we're taking a month off doesn't mean the kids are going to remember any more than they did when they took 3 months off. Then choice D fails to show that the data on which the psychologist's conclusions were based was adequately representative of children in the population as a whole. Well, we're not concerned with that. We don't actually have any uh, distinction about how many children it was whatsoever. This could have been a flaw, but it simply wasn't present in the argument, so we can eliminate choice D. And then choice E claims to accept a view, but then rejects it in the course of the argument. Well, no, they didn't claim to accept one view and then reject it later. They're just saying throughout that we prefer a 1 every 3 months or 1 every 4 months month law break as opposed to the single 3 month long break. So simple enough. We work through that, and choice E again just doesn't match our predicted flaw, but C does. It just happens to be buried under delightfully complex LSAT language.